That's why I'm going to start tonight with a Colbert Report shout-out. Hey!
Hi, guys. Oh, my God, it's Ugly Bob! What the hell are you doing here?
Hello Castlevania fans, for this review we are going to be taking a look at Castlevania Chronicles, the first game that Iga produced upon retaking the reins of Castlevania in 2001. He had wanted to make this previously Japanese exclusive entry available to a broader audience, so he had it remade for the PlayStation. Chronicles was previously released on the Sharp X68000 PC, a Japanese-only computer, in 1993. Due to relative cost of this machine, not many people had a chance to play this remake of the original Castlevania. Chronicles is an effort to correct this. Being a remake of the original Castlevania, the story is identical. In 1691, Dracula has been resurrected by a satanic cult depicted in a new still/slightly animated intro. Simon Belmont is the current living family member, so it falls on him to stop the count with the vampire killer and other family powers passed down from his great-grandfather Soleil. When it comes to graphics, I feel I must be honest. The graphics in this game are fairly average, especially for a game released on a platform supposedly capable of arcade-quality graphics, and in 1993 no less. I would say that Simon and other sprites, backgrounds, etc. are probably about the same quality of Castlevania Bloodlines. Not bad, but one must always consider the hardware when reviewing. Many arcade ports were lacking on the 68000, but certainly closer to arcade graphics than this version of Castlevania, which looked like an early Genesis game to me. Aside from that rant, the familiar-looking Castlevania stages have all been redone and look definitely better detail-wise compared to the NES. So at least we can acknowledge them as upgrades. Simon's sprite is certainly different looking as well, and it's nice to see the slightly redone changes of Dracula, Death, and other famous bosses and enemies. The Crystal Man in Stage 4 sucks ass though. I don't care for his appearance at all, it seems so out of place. The music is also a bit out of its time, a fault of the hardware again. The default soundtrack is higher than NES quality music, but certainly only about Genesis quality. Some tunes fare better than others for in-game listening, but I rarely listen to them anywhere else. I also lament that this score jacked up the price of the CD re-release when it was bundled with the Chronicles remixes, and 2 other slightly different MIDI tracks. You can access these in-game with a secret code. All 3 different soundtracks on this game are pretty much the same, despite minor differences in the type of MIDI hardware that they run on, like the roll-in and various other technical terms that don't really matter. They're basically all MIDI engines and only sound slightly differently. Because of this, no one version of Bloody Tears or even the theme of Simon really stands out. On the bright side, there are many classic Castlevania tunes redone for this release, which include Bloody Tears, Vampire Killer, and the theme of Simon. Exclusive pieces, due to their stages not being present in the MSX, NES, or myriad other versions of the original Castlevania, include Tower of Dolls and Etude for the Killer, both solid compositions and earn their place among Castlevania history music of Castlevania history. Lastly, Dracula's boss battle music, while it can't touch Super Castlevania IV, is awesome simply because of its name. You goddamn Bathead. That's totally classic. Gameplay has several changes from the original versions of Castlevania. Simon can whip diagonally down left or right while jumping. He is also able to slightly correct his jumps in midair, saving you some unnecessary deaths. We also have a new sub-weapon that helps to conquer the notorious difficulty of this remake. This is a Laurel/Herb, and for 10 hearts you can refill 6 life bars. A very helpful and a neat idea, proving that this game is not entirely without rules. Oh, and Simon also has the ability to whip directly down while he's jumping. Challenge. Challenge is merciless in this game. This is the hardest traditional Castlevania there is, mostly due to the huge amount of damage that enemies take off with each hit. In the early stages it does only 2 or so bars, but by the time you get to the latter stages, every single attack does 4 bars, causing Simon to die in only 5 hits. This coupled with the still limited dodging and mobility of Simon make having the aforementioned Laurel seem like a necessity if you want to beat this game without a great deal of frustration. The Laurel certainly helped me to do as such. Now, you might say that this was the case with the NES Castlevania too, and that enemies hit just as hard and you took just as much damage. Still, this is an ultimately harder game because of the new enemies and stages. Many more enemies have projectiles that they use to hit you from far away. The dolls in Area 7 are especially annoying. All this adds up to a greater and deeper challenge. Replay value for this specific game is no more significant than the original. There is the added challenge of new enemies and greatly incurred damage for each subsequent playthrough, but that cannot be defined as a true incentive to replay, as the stages and bosses are identical. The only real difference is that enemies hit harder and that there are more of them. In conclusion, Castlevania 68000 was mostly unknown at the time of its release, and in playing this, I'm glad it has received greater availability on the PlayStation. There are minor differences in the PlayStation version, mostly involving the internal system clock option, affecting certain stages and graphics. Nothing to really write home about. I tried to look at this remake in context of a Japanese-only release or the 1993 release year, but neither bit of reflection give this product much reason to exist, especially as a far superior remake of Castlevania had already been made on the Super Castlevania IV. That remake was on a far superior and more accessible system in the Super Nintendo. Perhaps this X68000 version was nothing more than an attempt to sell the Sharp computer by putting respected franchises on it, similar to the Mario and Zelda games on the Philips CDI, and we all know how bad those games turned out. Castlevania X68000 is not as bad as those games, certainly, but it is at least playable. But it feels like an unclear project. Given the PC's limited user base, who is this game meant to appeal to? Is it worth a playthrough on the PlayStation version? But I can't fathom the completest sense that would make a gamer hardcore enough to buy the Sharp PC just to play this fairly mediocre remake of the original Castlevania. The limited new features of this version just don't do enough for me. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Pizza power! With chameleons, lives a dead tadpole.